Kyle here with Wicked Alaska, and we're going fishing. I brought gear along to target greenling. Rock greenling have blue meat. I've never eaten this blue meat before, so in this video, we're going to harvest some and we're going to eat it. On our way back from our adventure, we ran into some orca whales. What a sight. At the end of the video, we cook this blue meat and see what it tastes like. This is an interesting one. We left the Homer Spit in the afternoon using Mako's taxi service. It dropped us off on the beach, and the tide was coming in, so we had to make quick work of shuttling the gear up. I waited a little while for the weather to break, and as soon as the rain stopped, I was hitting the water. Once away from the bank, I can deploy my pedal drive. I can't do this in shallow water because the rudder is pretty fragile. We are in lovely Kachemak Bay. It is raining and it is Christmas Eve. I have a jigging rod with me. We're going to be jigging some pretty large heavy stuff off the bottom for halibut and rockfish. I also have a very lightweight rod for some greenling. There's a ledge over here that I'm looking for, and it's at about 100 feet deep. Much colder than it was the last time I was out here. It's probably in the 40s. I'm gonna move into the shallows a little bit more, break out the light action rod and see if I can catch some greenling, just to get a little bit of excitement going. So I brought some of these little, typically for bass, kind of jigs. And of course the first cast goes into a nice big old rat's nest. Wouldn't be fishing if it was straightforward and easy and you didn't have to deal with all this crap. Fixed for now. I don't know if I want to be reeling this in or just jigging off the bottom, but I'm going to try a little bit of everything until I find something successful. One thing I did notice before though is that they like to hang out right at the bottom, so I got to make sure this thing gets all the way there. Ooh, I see a pretty big fish going after it right now. It's cool fishing in this shallow water. It's pretty clear, and because the sun is flat light, oh, I got him. The sun is flat light, so there's not much of a reflection on the top. I can see right down into it. Kelp greenling. You know, it's not that big of a fish, but it's a pretty good size for a male. Pretty cool fish. No, it's much darker than they looked in the summer. They're a much sandier color in the summer. I wonder if they color up a little bit as the water cools down. If I figure out this greenling fishing on these light action rods, this could be a lot of fun. Yep. He said very confidently as I hook a rock. Sure feels like a rock. There's free. It was a rock. I was between some rocks. That's kind of where I need to be though. Got to be down by the rocks. There's some big boulders right there. I might have been a tad deeper when I hooked up with that fish. I'm gonna move just a hair further out. Oh yeah. Woohoo. This is an interesting colored one. He's more red. I'm gonna try to show it to you here. Let me unhook him first, if I can. There we go. You can tell it's a rock greenling because of its blue mouth, which also means that this guy has blue meat. He's a really small one. I would love to show you guys a fillet of one of these, but I'm gonna let this one go because he's a little small. The colors you see on rock greenling in the summer are much more spectacular. I called Kachemak Bay Fish and Game, had a whole bunch of questions for them. I look forward to hearing back from their biologist. Really small sculpin coming up after it. Fingers are starting to get a little cold. I just can't stand fishing with gloves on. It takes my dexterity away. This will be the last cast I take in this spot. The next morning brought new weather. It was really clear out. You could see all the way across the bay and see the volcanoes. It was beautiful, but it was cold. Much colder than yesterday. made this chum bucket out of a can of beans. You undo the top here with the bread ties. And you can load it up with whatever bait you have. Once you fill it up, this ties to a rope and you can jig it up and down and really shake all the stuff out of it. We'll see how that does today. Chop things up a bit, throw them in the bucket. Got a nice pot of cut up fish. The tide has gone out almost 15 feet since I started loading my bait bucket. All right, we're on the water. We made it. Got the chum bucket with me. I'm sitting on the pile of rope. I'm gonna deploy that here in a second. Gonna get out to a spot where I wanna sit for a little while first. Here goes nothing. I should have put rocks in it. Oh well. Once it gets submerged, it'll start sinking. There it goes. I'll let that take line till it doesn't anymore. It is deeper than I have rope, so it should suspend down there towards the bottom. I'm gonna take this end, I'm gonna tie it to my anchor line. We got bait in the water. I'm gonna put my hooked bait on the down tide side, so when the halibut come looking for the bait that they smell, they might find mine first. Like many fish, halibut are scent focused. So if they can smell something, even if it's a faint smell, they'll start navigating to it to feed. For that reason, chumming is a very important part of your success. I've been here for about a half hour and I got no bites on anything. I'm gonna pick up and move to a different location. I gotta get this rope up. See if we can make this less difficult than it needs to be. The bait bucket worked. All my bait's still in there. Just keep all that stuff up there on the bow of the boat. If you're interested in how I'm attaching my GoPro, I have a little clip and I'm clipping it to the top handle here of my pedal drive. And so sometimes you might see it wiggle a little bit, but that's what I got to work with right now, so. It's been doing okay. I set up an anchor line last year on my kayak, and so I got this ring here that I can pull forward. It's a little bit harder with one hand, but that moves the line out in the front and it keeps it out away from my prop. That has turned out to be a pretty nice feature. Okay. It is below freezing today, and I'm just kind of sitting here and getting cold with no action. One of my least favorite forms of fishing is bait fishing. It's a lot of sitting and waiting, and in particular, it is much more fun to be doing those things on a big warm boat. Bait fishing from a kayak is a whole different experience. You're bobbing around in the water, and if nothing's happening, you're just kind of sitting here for hours. I only have a little bit of time left out here. I'm gonna pull the bait and I'm gonna move into the shallows and see if I can catch some greenling. Whew, my hands are cold. All right, let's reel them in. Not even a nibble, amazing. Bringing this rope in cools the hands down quite a bit. Scrape off all the cold water. Should bring hot hands and put them in my dry suit next time. Oh. Yeah, we're on. Greenling. I love these guys. This is a rock greenling. He's got blue meat, and I'm gonna show you exactly what that looks like here in a little bit, because I'm gonna bring him home and we're gonna eat him. Super cool. One thing I'm noticing is when I'm jigging for them, they're swiping at it, but they're not really taking it as I'm actively retrieving. But as soon as I let the grub stop and fall, they're picking it up on the downstroke. Oh, that might be another one there. Let me see if I jig it a couple and then I let it loose. Jig it a couple, let it loose. Yep, there he is. Oh no! He got off the hook. That was another rock greenling. That would have been a nice one to keep. My grub. Ooh, that wind is cold. I'm getting really cold now. I think I'm gonna head in. Hi, puppy. All right, people, we have a rock greenling. We're gonna fillet this guy and I'll show you the blue meat. I accidentally left my fillet knife at home, so I had to make do with what I had in kitchen supplies. It's a lot harder to fillet fish with a big heavy knife that's not that flexible, because it tends to cut through everything, not just what you're trying to cut through. If you're not careful, you'll cut right through the backbone. At this point, my fingers were really cold. They'd been out all day, and now I'm dipping them in the water. That and the slipperiness of this fish, I just really couldn't hold on to it. It was getting very frustrating because I was trying to show the camera this blue meat. It's super blue. I managed to struggle through the next fillet and clean up the cutting board. The next morning, Mako's picked us up on the beach, and we were headed home. It's always a full production to get all your gear back onto the boat from the beach.
Good girl.
With the nice weather, the ride back is going to be a really beautiful one. And as it turns out, we ran into a whole group of orca whales. They're off the front, guys. He said there's about a dozen of them hanging out in here. It seemed like the pups were kind of over the ride about 20 minutes in, but they were halfway, so they'll live. Shuttling all the gear from the boat up back to the truck, that's a whole experience as well.
That is enough, you little crazy.
You can bring her up.
Okay, Ruby. Good, because she's losing her biscuits.
At high tide, it's a lot easier because the ramps aren't so steep. At low tide, it's almost twice the effort, especially if the ramps are slippery.
Hello. One more thing.
Is that water jug empty?
That one needs to get grabbed.
Slippery.
It's about a 4.5 hour drive home, and so when loading, I want to make sure things are right. And in this case, I want the seat of my kayak to be facing backwards so that the wind doesn't catch it. It probably doesn't matter, but I know it matters in other boats, so I'm going to do it here anyhow. I'm also going to spend some time tying things down correctly. I don't want anything falling off and hitting a car behind me. That would be really bad.
Yeah, it's fine. Thanks for staying longer with us, too.
Ruby took an epic nap on the way home. She always sleeps in the funniest positions. I heard from a couple places that when you cook this, the blue tint will go away. I wanted to test whether it would go away if you froze it as well. And I just froze it and thawed it. So this is what it looks like after that. Quite a bit of a fishy smell to it. As you can see, it still has a very blue, almost bluish green tint to the meat. I have this super cool knife that my dad got me that I'm going to use to take the skin off of it. I've never eaten this before, so this is going to be an experience. This knife is super thin, sharp, and flexible, which makes it really easy to take the skin off of a fillet. You can see it's doing a fantastic job. This side, I remember when I was filleting, got a little bit of blood on it, so that's probably why it's an orange tint. They say they're a little blue, but they're kind of green as well. Looks like it's starting to get a little bit of a white edge to it. Oh yeah, look at it. It's completely white now. Interesting. I think they're done. I don't really know how to tell though. We made Paula Dean proud on this recipe. We just smothered it in butter. All right, it cooked down. There's no blue in it anymore. Looks like regular whitefish. Let's give it a taste. I could tell you right now, it's got a bit of a fishy smell to it. It flakes just like a typical whitefish. Tastes like a whitefish. Maybe a little underdone though. I'm not super big into a really fishy tasting dish. These will probably be better served in like a fish tacos kind of thing. It has a very similar texture to that of a cod or a haddock, but it has a much fishier scent and taste. For me, it's not a 10 out of 10, and I probably could have cooked it a different way as well. I'm sure that some of you will think that I didn't do the cook justice, but it's too bad it doesn't present as a blue meat after you cook it, because then you could do some interesting things with the recipes and have some fun protein in there that's blue. But otherwise, a pretty general fish with a fishy taste, kind of like, ironically, bluefish in New England. I would say that they're really similar. If you want to see more adventure videos like this, based out of Alaska, check out the YouTube channel Wicked Alaska. See you on the water.